Welcome to Secrets of Saturday Morning Cartoons, a channel where we take a deep dive into the shows that made our childhood magical. Now, today we're talking about Thundercats, the legendary warriors of Third Earth. We'll cover the original series, its creators, voice actors, and some fascinating behind the scenes secrets. Let's jump into it. Thundercats, ho! Did you just feel a wave of nostalgia hit you? If you grew up in the 80s, Thundercats wasn't just a show, it was an event. So the show follows a group of feline-like humanoids from the planet Thundera. After their homeworld is destroyed, they flee to a new planet called Third Earth. Their leader, Lion-O, wields a powerful Sword of Omens, which houses the mystical Eye of Thundera, the source of the Thundercats' power. Now, the team is constantly up against the forces of evil led by Mumm-Ra, an ancient sorcerer determined to destroy the Thundercats and claim the Eye of Thundera for himself. Now, with a mix of action, sci-fi, and fantasy, the show became a cornerstone of 80s animation, combining epic battles with heartfelt lessons about leadership, teamwork, and bravery. Now, each character brought something unique to the table. Lion-O as the growing leader, Panthro with his tech-savvy skill, Cheetara with her lightning-fast speed, and even Snarf, the comic relief. It was a perfect blend of adventure and personality that kept us glued to the screen. All right, let's kick things off with some basics about the show itself. Now, Thundercats premiered on January 23rd, 1985, and ran for 4 seasons, totaling an impressive 130 episodes. The series originally aired in syndication, which meant it could pop up on different local networks across the US, usually in those after-school or early Saturday morning time slots. Now, it was produced by Rankin Bass Productions. If that name rings a bell, it's probably because they were famous for their stop-motion holiday classics like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But for Thundercats, they went all in on animation, outsourcing production to Japan's Pacific Animation Corporation. And that's why the show had a sleek, anime-inspired look. It was literally made by a Japanese studio. The series was created by Ted Wolfe, a creative who came up with the original concept, but it was Leonard Starr who developed the storylines and characters. Now, Starr was a veteran writer who brought depth to the show's themes of heroism, teamwork, and coming-of-age struggles. And get this, the show's writers included some big names like Jules Bass and Peter Lawrence. They wanted to make Thundercats more than just action. It was meant to have heart and moral lessons, which were a staple of the cartoons in the 80s. Now think about it. Every episode had a theme like leadership, trust, or resilience. And who could forget the incredible intro? That theme song and animation sequence set the gold standard for cartoon openings. I mean, if you weren't shouting Thundercats ho by the end, were you even watching? All right, let's talk about the incredible voice actors that brought the Thundercats to life. These weren't just any voice actors. These were legends in their own right. First up, we've got Larry Ketty, the voice of Lion-O. Now, Larry was no stranger to Voice Network when he joined Thundercats. He actually got his start in radio back in the 60s. Now, by the time the 80s rolled around, he was already famous for voicing cereal mascots like Count Chocula and Sonny the Cuckoo Bird. You know, the Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs guy? Lion-O was Larry's first big cartoon role, and man, did he nail it. Now, that deep, commanding voice gave Lion-O the presence of a leader, but he also brought warmth to the character, especially during Lion-O's more vulnerable moments. Larry has said that playing Lion-O was one of the highlights of his career, and fans still love him for it. In fact, he even returned for the 2011 Thundercats reboot, this time as Lion-O's father, Claudius. Now, let's talk about Earl Hammond, the man behind the spine-chilling voice of Mumm-Ra. Now, Earl had one of those voices that just stuck with you, deep, menacing, and absolutely unforgettable. But here's the kicker. He also voiced Jaga, Lion-O's wise mentor. So the guy who played the most terrifying villain on the show also played its most fatherly character. Now talk about range. Now Earl wasn't just a voice actor for Thundercats. He was a regular in Rankin Bass Productions, appearing in shows like Silverhawks and even voicing Santa Claus in one of their holiday specials. And sadly, Earl passed away in 2002, but his work as Mumm-Ra remains legendary. Let's not forget Lynn Lipton, the voice of Cheetara. Lynn was a bit of the chameleon in the voice acting world. She didn't just voice Cheetara, she also provided the voices for a ton of other characters, including Willa, the warrior maiden, and even the robotic Burbills. She was the show's secret weapon. Now, before Thundercats, Lynn was mostly known for her work in theater and on-screen acting, but her voice work on the show made her a fan favorite. And honestly, Cheetara was such a groundbreaking character. Strong, fast, and fearless. Lynn's voice gave her that perfect mix of elegance and power. Now here's a fun one. Bob McFadden, the voice of Snarf. You've definitely heard Bob's voice before, even if you didn't know it. He was the voice of Frankenberry in those cereal commercials. And he also did voices for the Milton, the Monster Show back in the 60s. Now, Bob brought so much personality to Snarf. Sure, he was the comic relief, but he also had a lot of heart. Now, Snarf was always looking out for Lion-O, even if he was a little annoying about it. And let's be honest, what would Thundercats be without Snarf? Now, Peter Newman was another key player in the voice cast. He didn't just voice Tigra, the team's architect and strategist. He also voiced Willy Cat and several other side characters. Now, Peter was like a one-man voice acting machine. Peter actually stayed with Rankin Bass for years, voicing characters in Silverhawks and Tiger Sharks. Fun fact, he's also an accomplished playwright and screenwriter. Pretty cool, right? Now, finally, there's Doug Price, who voiced Panthro. Doug gave Panthro that tough, no-nonsense voice that perfectly matched his role as the team's muscle and tech genius. Now, Panthro was the guy who built all the gadgets and vehicle, and Doug's voice made him feel like the most grounded member of the team. Doug has had a long career in voice acting, appearing in everything from the Venture Brothers to commercials. But for Thundercats fans, he'll always be Panthro. These voice actors didn't just bring characters to life, they gave them depth, personality, and soul. Every time you hear Lion-O shout, "Thundercats ho!" or Mumm-Ra scream, "Ancient spirits of evil," you're hearing some of the best talent the industry had to offer. Now, while the voice actors gave the characters their personality, the artist gave them life. And Thundercats had some of the best in the business. The animation was handled by Pacific Animation Corporation, a Japanese studio that would later merge into what we now know as Studio Ghibli. Yes, that Studio Ghibli. So, if the animation on Thundercats felt like a little more dynamic than your typical 80s cartoon, that's why. One of the standout artists was Jim Meskimen, a key animator who worked on character designs. He gave Lion-O that perfect mix of youthful energy and heroic strength. Jim later went on to work on Disney projects and even voice acting himself. And Katsuto Akiyama. This guy was a legend. He was a director at Pacific Animation Corporation and was instrumental in creating the show's iconic anime-inspired action scenes. He'd later go on to direct Bubblegum Crisis and other classics in Japan. Let's not forget that intro. Now, that legendary sequence was overseen by Nobu Tamazawa, one of the lead animators. He made sure every frame was packed with energy. Now, Lion-O's hair blowing in the wind, the Sword of Omens glowing, and that epic jump, it's still one of the best cartoon openings ever. Now, what made Thundercats so iconic wasn't just the action or the animation, it was the storytelling. Lion-O's journey from an inexperienced leader to a wise warrior gave the show heart and the supporting cast each had their own standout moments. And then there was the merch. Oh, the merch. From action figures to lunchboxes, Thundercats was everywhere. The toys were so popular, they basically ensured the show's longevity. So there you have it. The story of Thundercats, from its groundbreaking animation to its unforgettable characters. Now, this show roared its way into hearts of millions. What are your favorite Thundercats memories? Drop them in the comment section below. Now, listen, if you liked what you saw today, and I hope you did, don't forget to hit subscribe for more deep dives into Saturday morning cartoon history. Now, until next time, Thundercats ho! And I'll see you next Saturday.